So I'm reading your book about how the British came into Benin. It's good to have your narrative. You said when
It's,
the Oba was told.
it's actually not my narrative.
Yeah,
That was when I did some research. That was a bit of plagiarism
yeah.
from Barnaby Phillips's book Loot. That part should be in italics and credited. And when I emailed the editor who put that together, it come out not in italics. But if Barnaby Phillips ever,
Oh
if ever is not happy, that would be removed.
no, but I
But
think
I
this.
helped him enormously with the information I gave him, so I pinched a bit of his research too, and it fits in. And it's such an important point,
Yes.
and he did such a fantastic job in the research, putting the start of the conflict in the book. I thought it's important to reinforce that.
That the reason I'm reading this is even amongst English people that this is such a long time
Yeah.
to clarify that this was a wrong act.
Yes.
You needed the straight story.
Yes.
You needed the true story.
That's it.
You understand? And the true story says when Dioba was told that the British wanted to see him, he sent back a message saying that he could not grant such an audience, but the British has already reached Uwoton, a town about 50 miles away from Benin City. So they insisted on coming. Typical colonial Englishmen. This was more or less how the whole disagreement began. In your own narrative, what happened? How do you understand? Because you've got all the names here. You've got Dogo, the messenger, you've got everything. How did you understand the story coming back from Benin, starting to research the bronzes, starting to see the point of conflict before you could do anything you wanted to understand?
Well, I mean that narrative you've just very helpfully read out is as a result of Barnaby Phillips's research. That's only been available in the last 2 years. So when I came back from Nigeria in 2004,
Yes.
this didn't exist.
Just
Don't forget the diary of
Yeah.
Mark Walker didn't exist. This is all new information that's slowly come out through people's dedication and research, and through people like Mark Walker.
So what you heard about the Benin bronzes? You heard this call. What was your first steps?
Right, going back now to 2004, after the expedition. I mean, the expedition to successfully achieve our goals in a difficult, challenging country like Nigeria was very, very pleasing. And when I started looking at efforts that had previously been made to bring back the bronzes, for example, Bernie Grant, as a serving member of Parliament, said to the British Museum in 1997, couldn't they have one or two back to commemorate the 100th centenary?
Yeah.
And they said no. So I thought I'd like to take this on. It felt like Mission Impossible. I didn't believe I'd have any success at all. But I thought, well, that man, he gave me that note. The least I can do is add a page on my website that if anybody's got any information about the Benin bronzes, please contact me. I wasn't even sure what I would do if they contacted me. And it was only 4 or 5 months later that Mark Walker did. And he contacted me on an email, and he said he's been clearing out his mother's flat in Oxford, who passed away recently, and he's got some items that he believed I'd be very interested in seeing. And I knew it was a Benin bronze immediately. And I called Tim. I said, "Come, let's go. Let's go and look what this guy's got." And we went to the flat in Oxford and first met Mark Walker, a lovely Englishman, very well spoken, ex-professor, well, still a professor of microbiology, but since retired. And he showed us his 2 items. One was a bird and one was a bell. Yeah. But more importantly, he had this diary that Mark didn't know existed. He saw this diary of his great-grandfather, Herbert Sutherland Walker, who was on the expedition of 1897, who wrote this diary. And I just couldn't believe I was flipping through the pages, looking at 85 photographs taken on this punitive expedition. This is bringing back what's happened to life. And one particular photograph struck me with all the bronzes lined up, and he wrote the word "Lutz" underneath.
That was 1897.
That was the expedition.
Yes, and he wrote loot in 1890.
This is an eyewitness. He was there and he wrote loot because he knew we're stealing it.
Yeah.
So, that was when I started discussing with Mark what he wanted to do with his items. He was thinking of repatriation. I said, great. But he was worried that the museum might be looted because there is history of that.
Yeah.
And it took a few months, but I did persuade him. And I kept reinforcing that your gesture to return a bronze after all this time will have reverberations around the world. I did believe that. I kept emphasising that. And ultimately, I persuaded him.
That's what's happened.